Hello and welcome to STARCAST from Planet Waves. My name's Eric Francis Coppolino, the host of Planet Waves FM on Pacific Radio and the author of the Planet Waves horoscope and a little bit besides that. I'm here today with an edition that's going to go out with the April 13th Planet Waves and Planet Waves horoscope. I'm going to send it out on the 12th, but it is the late week edition. And this program is designed to cover the eclipse pair that begins in a few days with it's an annular total eclipse that takes place on Wednesday, the 19th, a little less than a week away from the time that I'm recording, and then a lunar eclipse on May 5th on a Friday on Beltane or Cinco de Mayo. That is on the afternoon of in here in the States. That would be Friday, the 5th, because it's Cinco de Mayo. It happens on the 5th. All right, so this is an unusual eclipse pair. One thing about the solar lunar eclipses of 2023 is that this pair in the spring happens in Mars-ruled signs. And then there is a pair in the autumn that happens in Venus-ruled signs. I have never noticed that pattern. I'm sure it's happened lots of times before, but I just haven't noticed it. So the way that works is there is an eclipse in Aries in the last degree of that sign on the 20th. And then, I guess that it's 20th Greenwich Mean Time. And then there's an eclipse of the moon on the 5th, right at the middle of Scorpio, like right splat along the center line of the cross quarter, the Beltane Samhain cross quarter. So that's exciting. We get a full moon eclipse there. Let's start with the one on the 19th, and that, well, it's showing up as the 19th. It's a time zone thing. 19th in the United States. That's standard time. So whatever. Late at night on the 19th, early in the morning on the 20th, depending on your time zone. And what makes this eclipse interesting is that it takes place in the last degree of Aries. So I'm one of those people who notices when something's in the last degree of a sign. Many astrologers do. It is considered the anaretic degree, Anaretic, anaretic. It's not a word you'll find in any conventional dictionary, though you'll probably find it in a good or old astrology dictionary. Somewhat controversial term, and in contemporary usage, it is said to mean that the degree represents a kind of a critical degree. There is a transformation in process, obviously symbolized by being close to the line, the imaginary line between two signs, and generally gets enhanced meaning when it comes to the endings of certain things. And so generally, the time approaching the new moon is a wrap up, clean up, tidy up kind of a time. And then when you've got a new moon eclipse in the last degree of a sign, that emphasizes the wrap it up, clean it up message. Now, what is exciting about this, or at least noteworthy, I think, is this eclipse is not making a lot of aspects. It's kind of a little bit out of the way, but it is opposite a little-known centaur called Elatus. You probably never heard of that one. The only reason I've heard of it is because when I was first working with Robert von Heeren, some of you know Robert or have heard of him, of the Centaur Research Project, when I was living in Munich in 1998, there was a I think since lost centaur called 1994 TA that was an Elatus candidate. Now, that name was given to another candidate. A lot of the centaurs are barely referenced in myth. There were lots of them, and some of them get a single line in the mythology. You know, they were at a wedding, things got rough. Elatus has a cameo appearance in the in the myths of both Pholus and Chiron, because there's a fuss without getting into this. And I did, I'm reminded that I did. Melanie Reinhardt and I said we were going to do a program on the myths of Chiron, Nessus, and Pholus. I'm going to write to her when I'm done with this and ask her about that. But anyway, the story of the centaurs turns weird when Heracles turns up at the cave of Pholus, and he wants some cooked meat and wine. And he persuades Pholus to roast meat, which is very tempting and to centaurs and makes them hungry and aggressive, and they eat their meat raw usually. And then he persuades Pholus to open up a cask of ancestral wine going back 3 previous generations. So there's a melee that occurs because the centaurs smell the wine and the cooking meat, and thousands of them show up, and they get into a battle with Heracles, who's this celebrity guest. I'm sure Pholus didn't get that many visitors in his cave. Cave of Dionysus, by the way, which was inherited by Pholus with the wine. And Elatus leads the battle to Chiron's cave, leading to the infamous injury of Chiron. And so Elatus is a kind of a misleader. His theory was that if he led the centaurs if he led the battle to Heracles' teacher's cave, Chiron was the teacher of Heracles, that everybody would calm down. Didn't work. The battle raged on. And so with this degree with this eclipse in the last degree of Aries, and a centaur with this kind of misleading energy in its myth in the last degree of Libra, my suggestion, and you'll see this running through the weekly interpretations in various ways, is to not be misled. In other words, lead yourself. Make your own decisions. Pay attention to who is striving to lead you, or to, say, "Oh, here's something I think you should do. Why don't we all do this?" If you're going to do it, okay, that's one thing, but I would suggest not doing it because that person said so, and then all those other people are going along with it. So, as Bob Dylan said, don't follow leaders and watch your parking meters. So that's going on. So that's in there in the story. Now there is an interesting conjunction going on in the very last degree of Gemini, sextile the eclipse. And the way that I work, and I've posted something from the Serenu.com website below. That's a list of all the eclipses that happened in 2023. And when I've got a chart, any chart really, I will cast the chart on Serenu. I'll look at it in a 90-degree format, so I can see everything that is in a certain degree range. And then I make up the aspects. So I use different planets in every chart. Sometimes I will use the same planet in several charts. There are some that I almost always or often put in, some that just get put in for special occasions. And in the case of this conjunction in the last degree of Gemini, that is the trans-Neptunian point Chaos, named for the foundational Greek goddess of the firmament, of the ultimate yin of them all, which is the heavens. And then the asteroid Urania. Urania is about inventions and science. And so there's a message here that there's kind of a late stage breakthrough that comes from an origin that is not necessarily, or doesn't seem like, well-ordered thought. Right? We have this idea that, everything has to be perfectly in order and all that. And actually, most discoveries come from some kind of a mishap. The telephone was initially discovered when Alexander Graham Bell spilled acid on the thing, and the first words spoken over the telephone were, "Mr. Watson, come quickly." That was his lab assistant, because he spilled acid. And Mr. Watson said, "Alex, Mr. Bell, I could hear you. Let's found the Bell Telephone Company. Okay, so that is there, and that is a reminder that there may be some form of a breakthrough that seems very late in the development of something, but it is a breakthrough no less. These breakthroughs can save a huge amount of time and kind of set you forward in many different ways. So that's mostly what I see going on in the very late degrees of signs. If you know something else, maybe put it into the comments. A few other bits in this chart. All of them a little wee bit esoteric, because why not? You can read about all the conventional planets from other people who might misinterpret them. Okay, so here's one. The planet Mars is approaching the midpoint of Cancer, and it is going to be conjunct for this eclipse new moon a point called Kronos. Now, I'm among the last remaining weirdos who work with these things called the TNPs, the Trans-Neptunian Points, 8 hypothetical planets developed late 19th, early 20th centuries. I love if there's any Uranian astrologers out there who have a book on the history of Uranian astrology. I know one fabulous remaining Uranian astrologer, Madeline Hillis-Deneen, at the company that makes, what is the main program? Anyway, the main really good PC program for which one is coming out for Mac, we are told they're having a hard time finding programmer astrologers. All right, so anyway, Mars is conjunct Kronos. Kronos is about VIPs. That is interesting. And Mars often represents some kind of a fall or assault on VIPs. We don't really, let's see if we can find something that shows up in the Rita of the news and all that looks like something like that. It may happen, may not happen, but it's there. It's a close conjunction, a very close conjunction, about less than a third of a degree. Mars conjunct the non-existent, hypothetical, make-believe planet Kronos. Okay, meanwhile, Mars is square Chiron. So it's Mars in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. You may have read some of my interpretations in the monthly horoscope of things like there's such a thing as too much integrity. So the thing with Mars square Chiron is that it can represent very high integrity on one level, but then it can represent a little too much integrity. It can represent a kind of a stiffness, a kind of an inflexibility, and the aspect can be triggered in a negative sense by desire, because desire can seem like, well, I want that. Maybe that's bad, or I want to be good, right? There's a lot of moralism often with this thing, and it can disguise itself as like cool and all that, but ultimately, there is a rigidity associated with moralism here. Okay, so what else have we got? That's Mars square Chiron. So we'll watch that develop. That develops. That's going to be like maybe it's going to take another week after this to take shape. Mars is still moving kind of slowly, coming up to full speed after that long agonizing retrograde in Gemini. Next, let's see. One definite juicy one. So Jupiter has been in Aries. It spent part of last year in Aries and spending part of this year, or most of the year till May, or all of the year till May, in Aries. And so therefore, that meant that it made a conjunction to Chiron a couple of weeks ago, and now it is approaching a conjunction to Eris in late Aries. So Eris also is about the chaos factor, but unlike the Trans-Neptunian object, the creation goddess Chaos, which is a Kuiper object, another kind of far out Kuiper object, Eris, is more about toxic chaos, and also it is much more aggressive than the Greek goddess Chaos, but it's chaotic in that toxic sense. And it is also, I would say, what you might call an identity toxin. It manifests in ways that fragment us. So it has a kind of a postmodern quality. Doesn't matter what order the story is in or how many identities you may have or so forth and so on. And so it will be interesting to see what happens with this conjunction of Jupiter conjunct Eris in Aries. I believe this has only happened once before since the discovery of Aries. Maybe not even. Aries was discovered in 2005, so there would be 2012 would be one Jupiter cycle, and now we're so it's probably the second time this has happened. Also of note, we're about to enter into a Mercury retrograde. So this is an interesting Mercury retrograde. Mercury, and I'll wrap up on this point. Mercury's in Taurus. If you look at the chart, it looks like it's about to make a conjunction to Uranus, but it's going to station retrograde before that. So there's like you have Mercury and Uranus kind of sniffing each other, and I think that a planet like Uranus has a kind of an emanation. This is only, it's going to be a degree. I don't have those charts. Do I? Well, maybe I've got them here. I'm in this awkward stage where my operating systems have exceeded the ability of my astrology software to maintain it. So I've got to kind of keep a laptop near me, and I forgot to do that. But anyway, this station's retrograde prior to the conjunction, exact conjunction, but it is a conjunction no less. And so there is this kind of magnetism between Mercury and Uranus that prolongs the conjunction. It's really going to hold for a while. I think this is very positive if you are an idea person, because there's going to be this prolonged period of these kind of poles of this psychic magnet, this kind of transmitter, Uranus, and this kind of receiver, Mercury, hanging out in a very close degree range there for a while. So that's that. Now, I haven't done too much about the Beltane lunar eclipse. There's still time to talk about that, but here is that. That is right on the cross quarter. We're in a phase now where we have lunations happening at the very beginning of a sign, or the very end of a sign, and right in the very middle of a sign. So that is cautionary. I think that we're in a moment of calm right now, but I think the next big shakeup we're going to experience is some kind of an economic shakeup, and we really don't want that. Though an eclipse right in the middle of the Taurus-Scorpio axis is putting everyone on kind of earthquake warning. All right, that all said, for those of you listening who may not be Planet Waves customers, I have all kinds of really beautiful, useful, helpful astrology products that I charge far less than they're actually worth. One of them coming up is the Taurus Astrology Studio. That I'll be doing that next week. And then there is also Aries Astrology Studio. These are all available on the website at planetwaves.net. If you go to the Get a Reading tab on the upper right. I know there's a lot of tabs up there, but one says Get a Reading, and you go to that and you'll see there's all kinds of stuff. And if you like my kind of quote unquote general discussions that are not specifically for a sign or a rising sign, you will love the readings that are for a sign or a rising sign. They've got a wonderful therapeutic quality to them, and I do my best to create a space of sanctuary and include original music. Please do subscribe to Planet Waves if you've been thinking about it for years and just wish you had done it in the past. Well, now's a good time to do it. All right, that is what I have to say to you today. Look for a mailing at around 6 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow with the new horoscope and an article by me about these eclipses and Mercury retrograde. Thank you for listening, for your time, your business, and most of all, your trust. Signing off from Kingston, New York at 6:13 on the evening of Wednesday, April 12. Bye for now.